6, verses 6.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sadeva Bhagavan Ananto Ananta Gunarnava Adideva Upasam Riklamarsha Rosadego Lokanam Swasthaya Aste That Eva certainly Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ananta Dev, Anantaguna Arnava, the reservoir of unlimited transcendental qualities. Adi Deva, the original Lord, who are none different from the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Upasamhrita, who has restrained, Amarsha, of his intolerance, Rosha, and wrath. Vega, the force. Lokanam, of all people on all planets. Swasthaye, for the welfare. Aste, remains. Lord Shankarshan is the ocean of unlimited spiritual qualities, and thus he is known as Anantadev. He is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the welfare of all living entities within this material world, he resides in his abode, restraining his anger and intolerance. Report of His Divine Grace. Anantadev's main mission is to dissolve this material creation, but he checks his anger and intolerance. This material world is created to give the conditioned souls another chance to go back home, back to Godhead. But most of them do not take advantage of this facility. After the creation, they again exercise their old propensity for lording it over the material world. These activities of the conditioned souls anger Anantadev, and he desires to destroy the entire material world. Yet, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is kind toward us, and checks his anger and intolerance. Only at certain times does he express his anger and destroy the material world. Om Gyantirandasya Gyananjalakarya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Adhamayam Dadakishvaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Radhanath Sri Guru Vaishnavascha Sri Rupam Sarvajana Sakana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Bhagavan Sakana Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinanando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhanath Namostate Bhakta Kanchana Gaurandi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabharu Sudevi Pranamani Hari Priye Vansha Paramparudyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patimanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Lord Shankarshan is the ocean of unlimited spiritual qualities. And thus he is known as Anantade. He is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the welfare of all living entities within this material world, he resides in his abode, restraining his anger and intolerance. I'm very grateful to be back with all of you in the Torah. Thank you for being here. In this purport, in the 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25, the glories of Lord Ananta, text 6. Srimad Bhagavatam writes that this material world is created to give the conditioned souls another chance to go back home, back to Godhead. But most of them do not take advantage of this facility. The Lord descends again and again. Yada 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 rasya to remind us of the very purpose of life, the very purpose of creation. Creation is designed in such a way by the Creator to ultimately frustrate all of our attempts to falsely, unnaturally try to be the controller, the enjoyer, and the proprietor. And to ask the basic questions: who really am I? Why is there suffering? What is the purpose of life? And how to achieve it? Without pilgrimages, when one actually sincerely makes these inquiries, the Vedanta Sutra tells us that's when human life really begins. Human life is a precious opportunity for self-realization. The will of Manavata, of Lokiya Samsara. And it is so rare. And when one comes in contact with the path of true Dharma, it is the rarest of all rare gifts, the ultimate treasure, and how it should be carefully, conscientiously protected and utilized for its purpose. But material existence is such that even when we have the greatest of all great things that takes millions of births to achieve, our tendency is to take it to be something ordinary. And oftentimes, to lose it, or let life just pass without really taking advantage of this ultimate gift. There's that famous story of one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Srila Prabhupada told him that within this cosmic manifestation, this universe is just a tiny little speck. And within the universe, the earth is a speck. And within the earth, the city of Los Angeles is a speck. And within the city of Los Angeles, this temple, you might say the avenue is a speck. And within the temple, you are just a speck. And yet you are thinking the whole world is revolving around, the whole universe is revolving around you. So here the Lord, He has such a sense of humor in which He philosophically reveals the truth. Here is Anantadeva, such a huge personality that He's supporting not just the earth, He's supporting our universe. And it describes, and this was a literal explanation, that this entire universe is like a tiny mustard seed on the top of His gigantic head. You probably wouldn't even see it on His head without a magnifying glass. And there's unlimited such universes. And in this way, the Lord is sustaining. Just to give us a view compared to Krishna. This is just one of the unlimited heads of Ananta, supporting the unlimited universes. And yet, we think our car is so important. We think our property is so important. And unfortunate people are fighting wars over a tiny little tract of land. disputing about money. What is it all? Everything within this creation is insignificant. That's all the material world really is. It's simply insignificant. And it's all quickly being swept away by the current of time. You can't hold on to anything for very long. Either it's going to be lost in this life or it's going to be lost in death. It's inevitable. Our bodies, our relatives, our property, everything. But in the Bhagavatam, we understand. We don't know from a material perspective. It's all dukkha and shastra. Living is a source of misery because everything is going to be taken away. And whatever you have, you never have enough. Even if you think you have enough for a while, it just isn't what you really want it to be. Or they are not what you want them to be. There's great frustrations in whatever situation. Pleasure, pain, honor, dishonor, fame, infamy, happiness, distress, success, failure, victory, defeat. Everything's changing in this world. But only we're only them. And if we see these things in relation to Krishna, we understand that everything has unlimited value. Even these little specks of universes, and even the little specks within the specks of the specks of the specks of the universe. Everything has unlimited value if we see its eternal connection to Krishna, who is Sarvakaranakaranam, this cause of all causes, the source of everything. Relationships we have, yes, we're all going to die. And in the eyes of eternity, our life is hardly a moment. But if our relationships are centered in Krishna, then our relationships have eternal, unlimited value. They're precious, they're sacred. The same car we drive, yes, it's going to be in the junkyard in a few years. As long as we're using it for Krishna, it's sacred. It's unlimited value. It's like we're not the electric chariots. We've used those big wooden chariots for so many years, and we're paying so much money to store it every year. It's sacred. It's worth billions of times more than that. But now it's going to be dismantled. And it will be where the wood will go and where it will go. That's for all of you to decide. There's the new chariot. But similarly, these bodies which carry the Lord within our heart, carry them for some time. But because those chariots have the same kind of wood as so many as the taverns and bars of L.A. Same kind of wood is probably there. One is in the mode of ignorance, and the other is divine, sacred, and eternal. Because those chariots were used for Krishna, in the service of Krishna, in remembrance of Krishna. When the Bhagavad Srila Prabhupada explains, he compares his body to a chariot. The five senses of the horses. Mind and reins to control the horses. The intelligence is the chariot driver, and the Atma, the soul, is the passenger. Everything is supposed to be going according to the desire of the passenger. And the passenger is part and parcel of Krishna, an eternal servant of Krishna. You better struggle for Krishna and the gods. Therefore, the forces, the chariot, the mind, everything, the intelligence should be directing that chariot in the service of Krishna. Why not the actual chariot? Throughout its existence, all that wood and metal and whatever else was being used to glorify Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. So that's our choice. What is the passenger, the Atma, in this body going to do with this chariot? Is it going to be a Radhanath chariot? Is to glorify the Lord, bring other people to the Lord, for a joyous festival of life? Or is it going to be used for so many other purposes that this chariot is used for? Trying to be the controller, trying to be the enjoyer, trying to be the proprietor, and becoming entangled in endless karmic complications. And when we have a new body, which is going to happen, in Jagannath-puri, they dismantle chariots every year. After the return of the Yaksha, they dismantle 700 trees to make those chariots every year. And they use it, they burn all the wood to cook for their deities. And it is chariot. Similarly, according to the Vedic standards, the chariots of our bodies are going to be burned. Or according to the Western standards, they may be buried. Either way, finished. But the eternal sacred value of why we have it, and what we have, and our relationships. As long as the chariot driver of our intelligence is always focusing toward the will of the soul in the service of Krishna, then we can actually perceive the sanctity, the sacredness of everything that exists in this material world. Krishna says in Gita, the one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, for him I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. We see that everything is an expansion of Krishna's energy. In that sense, through the philosophy of Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya, Achintya Veda Vedantam, we understand how everything is one with God and different than God. As the sun ray is one with the sun, but different from the sun. Krishna is the cause of all causes, the source of everything that exists, and the ultimate object of everyone's love. But everything that exists, apparently spiritual or material, is Krishna's energy. Therefore, it's an expansion of Krishna. It's perfect. And it's sacred. It's beautiful. If we see it in that light. Even death is beautiful when we see it in that light. And birth is beautiful. Because we're not seeing through the eyes of flesh, which just sees flesh and blood and material elements. But we're seeing through our heart. We're seeing through knowledge of the soul. And therefore we're seeing the beauty of Krishna in every opportunity that there is for anything to be utilized for Krishna's pleasure. Srila Prabhupada's sublime teaching to us. I remember once seeing Srila Prabhupada, he was using this example. Is this microphone and speaking material or spiritual? If it's used political speeches, or singing passionate songs, then it's material. It's not the microphone's material, it's your perception of this material. But if it's used to glorify Krishna, to chant Krishna's names, then we see its true essence. We see its inherent spiritual potential. It's spiritual. In this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Radhanath is showing us the true nature of this creation. We shouldn't take the creation from a material perspective very seriously. We should take Maya very seriously because she's trying to strip our consciousness away from the truth. But when we see the universe decorating the head of Ananta, and it's absolutely a spiritual, wonderful thing. If we don't see the relation with Ananta, then it's just a little speck that's soon going to be destroyed. That's our choice. And the whole material existence is just to understand this principle. To give the chance of the conditioned souls who have diverted their attention away from their true interest to bring us, not just intellectually or theoretically from our hearts, a sense of being. Feeling the need to reconnect with God. And Srila Prabhupada explains that everything of this universe, all qualities, have their origin in perfection in Krishna. Even anger and intolerance. We're told that anger and intolerance are enemies to self-realization. They implicate us so much in illusion and ignorance. But here we see that Lord Ananta, the Lord, Shankar Shaman, he has anger and intolerance. But his anger and intolerance is an expression of his love. It's not an expression of his frustrated ego like ours. Material anger and frustration is simply nothing more than that. We're not getting what we want. Things are not going the way I dictate they should go. This world is a place of anxiety because things simply won't go the way you want. And when they do, it's just setting you up to become attached. Very difficult. But the Lord's anger and intolerance, and the great souls in this world, their anger and intolerance, is an expression of their love to help us. It's without ego. It's without malice. When a loving mother becomes angry with her child, it's to teach the child. It's not that she hates the child. The anger is just a tool to help the child to understand. Sometimes, Srila Prabhupada, when somebody was not understanding things properly or when they were taking things very cheaply, he would demonstrate anger just to shake people up, to understand the seriousness of this subject. And sometimes foolish people accuse Prabhupada, but you're not supposed to get angry, you're a saint. He's getting angry because he cares about you. He's not just idly, neutrally just giving you some knowledge and not really caring at all whether you get it or not. It's an expression of love and tolerance. Srila Mahaprabhu Swami teaches us Amani Amanadena. We should be, Devotee Basage. We should be more talented than a tree. Completely talented. This describes the Lord as intolerant, as an expression of compassion. Cannot tolerate seeing his beloved children suffering. When he's giving his beloved children the highest ecstasy of divine love, and we reject that to choose a life where we have to suffer birth after birth after birth. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told to Haridas Thakur, I cannot tolerate seeing the conditioned soul suffering like this. How will they be delivered? Haridas Thakur said they're chanting. You're getting everyone chanting the holy name, so everyone's going to be delivered. Well, what about the inanimate objects, like the trees and the plants? He was unable to tolerate the suffering of the trees and the plants, being bereft of love of God. And Haridas Thakur said, but when you hear an echo when you chant, that's the trees and plants chanting in return. And this way, Thakur Haridas, he didn't just say these things, but he was willing to get beaten in 22 marketplaces to give this beautiful gift of love of God to others through the chanting of the holy name. This type of intolerance is the highest virtue of quality because it's based on selfless love and compassion. Any quality, when it is springing from a genuine love of God and compassion to all living beings, are the most beautiful ornaments. But those same qualities, if they're springing from the egoistic misconception that I'm the enjoyer, instead of liberating us, they entangle us. As far as this anger and intolerance, I will end the class by giving an example. Lord Shankarshan or Ananta is a non-different expansion of Lord Balaram. Did he not that you're so nice to see? Saying like such a scholarly sage. The Shankarshan, Ananta are expansions of Lord Balaram, whose appearance here was just a couple of days ago. We'd like to remember it. Here is, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they explain in great detail who is Mahashankarshan, this expansion of the supreme absolute truth, the supreme personality of God, who's the source of Mahavishnu, the source of Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, the source of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He's the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation, is his expansion. The Lord of every universe, and who expands himself within the heart of every living being. Coming from Shankarshan, Balaram, is an expansion of Krishna. And just as Ananta is supporting and facilitating the entire material creation in his original form of Balaram, he's supporting and maintaining the whole spiritual worlds. Lord Balaram expands himself to sustain the entire abode of Goloka and all of Vaikuntha's. And it's such an ecstatic spirit of servitude. He's so enthusiastic. Although he's the supreme God, he wants to show that the highest quality of happiness is to serve. Bhagavatam is God. He could just say, I am God. He wants to serve. And Krishna, all he does is serve. And Rama, all he does is serve. And Hanumanji, all he does is serve. This reciprocation of service and love is the highest expression of spiritual perfection. Serve and love. So Balaramji, he is so enthusiastic, he expands himself to be the jewelry of Krishna, the shoes of Krishna, the couch of Krishna, the bed of Krishna, the clothes of Krishna. Nothing's just inanimate, it's all Balaram. I'm here for you, Krishna, in every possible way. The very land that Krishna walks on, Balaram expands himself. This was Lakshmana. His life, his soul, his everything. Lakshmana is not different than Balaram. Just serving. He didn't sleep in 14 years. He was just awake to guard and render any service. Here he is, Lord Shankarshan, the source of Ananda, who's holding all the universes on his head. And Lakshmana is going out and picking herbs, and picking flowers, and giving them to Sita to make garlands for Rama. When they went to Chitrakoot, Lakshmana got straw and cut wood and made a little house for Rama to live in. All by himself. Didn't hire a construction crew. Did it with his own hands. Such a menial service. Just breaking trees and tying them together. He didn't have nails and hammers. He would just take twines from creepers from trees and wrap them around the wood in such a nice way to make them a structure to live in. And service. The Lord Balaram descends into this world just to help Krishna in attracting the hearts and minds of the conditioned souls back to his loving eternal service. And I'll give an example of how one time Lord Balaram became angry and intolerant. Out of his supreme compassion for all living beings. Would you like to hear it? We know from Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata there was this war brewing between the Kurus and the Pandavas. The exploitation of Duryodhana for the Pandavas was unbearable. And even though Krishna himself and Balaram himself and so many others tried to create peace, Duryodhana was so envious he could not listen. Even he wanted to arrest Krishna if Krishna didn't take his side. Bhishma and Vidura are telling you, you are a fool, crazy, you can't arrest Krishna. He is the supreme absolute truth. He's God. Duryodhana knew that. But because of his envy and his arrogance, he was so covered over, he still thought he could arrest Krishna and force Krishna to take his side. Because he was so expert, he could get practically anybody else to do what he wanted by his diplomacy or by his threats. So he didn't even do that with God. When he sent his armies to arrest Krishna in his assembly, Krishna manifested Virat Rupa, the universal form. All the soldiers ran away. All the weapons. And nobody went near him. resumed his original form and laughed and said, "You do know to me, you are such a fool," and left. And still Duryodhana thought he could defeat the Pandavas. Anyways, when all attempts for peace failed, it was decided, Dharukshetre, Kurukshetre. In the field of sacrifice called Kurukshetra, they were going to fight this war. Now, whose side to take? Krishna naturally took the side of the Pandavas. But he staged it in such a way. Krishna knows past, present, and future. He knows everyone's heart. He even staged this so that it was Duryodhana's choice. Yes? Krishna really gave him every opportunity. So either you could have one Akshara division of my soldiers, or you could have me, but I vow I won't fight. Which one would you like? Duryodhana, if you're not going to fight, but you said you won't take this one. Arjuna was very happy. I love you, Krishna. Wherever you are, there is victory. The Balaram, he was inconceivably merciful and compassionate to everyone. It's like the other day we were talking about Narada Muni. Narada Muni told Kamsa, "Why are you letting Vasudeva," and he didn't say that exactly. Kamsa allowed Vasudeva to be free with his wife and the child, and Narada came and said, I was just at a meeting with the demigods. And the whole meeting was a conspiracy to kill you. And all the demigods are going to take birth as the children of the god of dynasty, and any one of these children can be Vishnu. Just wanted to inform you of this. And then Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and Devaki, put them in jail and killed everyone, their children. And you might think, why did he do that? Because he's so merciful. He understood the 6 children of the 7 Garbhas who were cursed to be born in this way, and their only desire in life is to go back to their original place. And he knew that they would go back to Godhead eventually because of the arrangements he was making. And he wanted to speed up Krishna's descent into this world for the welfare of all living beings, and also he knew that Kamsa was going to get liberated. So he was thinking about the benefit of Kamsa too. So Balaram actually loved the Pandavas more than his life. But he also loved Duryodhana. He agreed to be Duryodhana's teacher. He taught Duryodhana how to fight in the club, even knowing he was going to fight with the Pandavas. Why did he do that? Because he's Balaram. Inconceivable Achintya Shakti. Everything the Lord does, he knows he has the perfect reason, and it's always out of the highest love and compassion for all living beings. So Balaram was impartial. When the battle of Kurukshetra was to begin, he decided to go on pilgrimage. He didn't want to be around, he didn't want to take sides, he didn't like all this fighting. So it described him went to so many holy places and eventually came to Naimisharanya, where a whole group of sages had gathered to hear Ramaharshan Sutta speak from the scripture. They were performing a grand yajna. When Balaram appeared, all these great, realized, liberated sages and yogis, they saw Balaram. They knew who he is. He's the Supreme Lord. They stood up with folded palms. They greeted him. They chanted beautiful hymns for him. They worshipped him, and they gave him a nice seat. But in that whole assembly, one person who was sitting on the raised, elevated seat, who was the selected man who was speaking, his name was Maharshi. He did not stand up. He didn't even put his hands together to greet Balaram. Balaram is the original super soul in everyone's heart. He knows our desires. He knows our intentions. And he understood the attachment of Maharshi. And Balaram became angry and intolerant. He said, although he is a disciple of the divine sage Vyasadeva, and he has thoroughly learned many scriptures from him, including the religious laws, the epic histories of the Puranas, his studies have not created good qualities in him. Rather, like he studies the scripture like an actor studies his part. Because he is not self-controlled and he is not humble. He vainly considers himself a great leader, a saint, and a scholar, although he cannot control his own mind. Balaram continued, I have descended just to kill such hypocrites as this person. And Balaram picked up one single blade of kusha grass. It's just a piece of grass. But it's a piece of grass used for sacrifice. And Balaram was about to perform the sacrifice. I guess you could call it a human sacrifice. Balaram took that blade of grass and with the tip of the grass he touched Romaharsha. Romaharsha fell dead. All the saints and sages were shocked to see this. Balaram, why did you do that? He's our leader. He's the one who is supposed to speak from the scriptures for all of us. And before he began speaking, we bestowed upon him the blessings that he would live a long life. A healthy life. And he would be empowered to speak. But now he's dead. So Balaramji, you think, although you are the Supreme Lord and you are independent and you can do anything you want, just for the sake of the people in general, you think you should perform some atonement for this act. To set a good example. And Balaram said, if you like, I'll bring him back to life and make him just the way he was. They said, no, we can't ask you to undo what you've already done because we've already used the Kushagas. And then Balaram said, according to the scripture, a father lives to his son. So his son, Ugrashapa, bring him here. And I will give all of the benedictions and blessings that you gave to Romaharsha Sutta will be conferred upon his son. And they brought the young man there. And Balaram blessed that boy to be the great scholar, self-realized saint who happened to be at a place called Sugata. Any of you could do Sugata? Raise your hand. It's one of the holiest of holy places that nobody goes. It's a place where Sukadeva Goswami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to Parishma. It's between Rishikesh, Hardwar, and Delhi. It's off the road about an hour. There's a banyan tree there, the bank of the Ganges with Bhagavatam spoken. Sukadeva Goswami was there, and he heard it. And he understood everything. And he came back to Naimisharani and spoke the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. So isn't it interesting that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he writes that it's only by the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu that I came to Vrindavan. It's by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu that I've understood the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and I have been in the association of Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. Nityananda Prabhu staged Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nityananda Prabhu was the guru of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And he ordered and empowered Vrindavan Das Thakur to write Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. So actually all that we know about Lord Chaitanya is by the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And in a similar way, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was very instrumental because what we have as the Bhagavatam today was very much the words of Suta Goswami, who was empowered and blessed by Lord Nityananda Balaram. Then the sages said, in order to set a good example, these are the things we would like you to do, to atone for killing his father. One is there's a demon named Balvala, who's always disturbing our devotional activities. He's cruel, he's a murderer, he's a killer. So please liberate him. And then for the next 12 months, for the next year, go on pilgrimage to all the holy places and bathe in all the kunds and bathe in all the rivers and worship all the temples and like that. And Balaram, although he's Balaram, supremely powerful, loves to serve his devotees. With folded palms, he said yes. And he liberated Balabala. And then he went on a pilgrimage for 1 year. So humble. To atone for liberating a person. Now it's also interesting what Balaram was trying to teach us by killing Ramana Shamsut. Although he may have performed tapasya, he may have studied scriptures, he may have done all kinds of pujas, if all those things don't produce good qualities, it's useless. That's the purpose of all these things, to produce good qualities. I often cite a particular statement Prabhupada made, which was so sweet. He said, philosophy has little or no meaning unless it produces good character. We can be proud that we are disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, or disciples of Prabhupada, or disciples of Lord Chaitanya. A real disciple means living with the qualities that they teach. Rama Maharshi was a direct, dear student, disciple of Vyasadeva. And Everyone in our parampara sits on the Vyasasana. Yes, we remember Vyasasana every day. We're reading his book, Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading his book, Bhagavad Gita. We're sitting on his seat. Vyasasana is such a prominent person. Can you imagine being a direct disciple of Vyasasana? It's a very exalted position. And not only being a disciple, but really thoroughly learning everything he said and being able to repeat it in a spellbinding, mesmerizing way. In Naimisharani, every one of those people were great scholars and sages, and they chose him because he was the best, most charismatic, powerful speaker. But despite all that, such a guru, such learning, such honor and respect he's getting, he didn't have good qualities. And what were the true qualities that Balaram said were paramount, most important? To be self-controlled and to be humble. Lord Chaitanya told Radhanath Swami, one of the renounced order must be Amanadena. Eager to offer all respect to others and not expect in return. Vinada Visulijana, Karoti Vasishna, Amani Amanadena Kirtanis. Prabhupada in one purport quotes Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Prabhupada elaborates on it. So you can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra birth after birth and never attain perfection until you chant with this quality. And then he quoted Vinada Visulijana, to be humble like grass, tolerant like tree, offering all respect to others and not expecting in return. It's not a detail. It's a priority on the path of pure bhakti. It's not how much you know. It's your humble service attitude. That's what makes a person great in the eyes of God, like Balaram. And Balaram said, all your reading of the scriptures is like an actor just studying his part. Because when an actor studies his part, it's just for a show, for others. But an actor doesn't live the part. When we study the scripture, and the scripture, the purpose is to live what's there. And predominantly it means self-control and humility. And although he was so big and so powerful and so arrogant, he was sitting above everyone else. Why did you show? As far as I'm concerned, you are less than this piece of straw. Even this piece of straw can kill you. You're so insignificant and so useless. Vivo! Punched him with his fist. That would give him some importance. The Lord's fist killed him. You think you're so great, you're sitting above the greatest sages in the world, and you're such a great scholar, and you know billions of verses, and you can speak in such a way that hypnotize so many people and so many beautiful melodies. As far as I'm concerned, because you are not humble and you have no self-control, you're less than the straw. I'm going to prove it to you. The straw is going to. So this anger and intolerance is important in being a devotee. But that same Lord Balaram comes again in the Kali Yuga as Lord Nityananda. Brajendrananda Naje Sashishuddha Yoshe Balarama Vaibhonitai. And as Lord Nityananda, he takes that straw and instead of touching the demons with it, dispatching them, he puts it in his own mouth, which according to the Vedic culture, this is the ultimate expression of humbling yourself before another. It's a sign. When you take a straw and put it between your teeth, it's approach somebody with folded hands. It's considering you're really, really humbling yourself, and I'm lower than this straw at your feet. The Lord Nityananda Prabhu took that straw between his teeth, and he approached even the most fallen souls. So many Romaharshan suttas were there in Navadvip. And even Dina Hinayata Shiva Harinama Uttariva Tarasakshi Jagai Madhai. Even approached Jagai and Madhai. And with that straw between his teeth, he would get on his knees and beg people. Even criminals, even sinners, even every type of person, without discrimination. Beg, please, chant the names of Krishna. Worship Krishna. Speak about Krishna. Krishna is your mother. Krishna is your father. Krishna is your real wealth. Krishna is your life and soul. Please chant the names of Krishna. Say, take the name of Gauranga. Worship Gauranga. Speak about Gauranga. If you chant the holy names of the Lord, as Lord Gauranga is telling, you will be my life and soul. And if anyone took to the chanting of the holy names, Lord Nityananda Prabhu would weep and cry and embrace that person and say, you are my life and soul. And if people refused and said, get you Abadunta, useless beggar, get out from here, parasite, out from here, get a job. They're talking to Balaram. He could have picked up a piece of cushion grass. He had it in his mouth. That's the problem. And he would fall at their feet, roll on the ground, and beg them with tears of compassion, please, I don't mind what you've done. Just chant the holy names. And when Madhai was appealed in this way, not only did he blaspheme Nityananda Prabhu, he chased him down to kill him, but Nityananda Prabhu came back and asked him again. And then he picked up a big pot and he smashed the pot on Nityananda Prabhu's head, and he was bleeding. The blood was coming down on his face and his clothes. He still didn't take the straw out of his mouth. Figuratively. With folded hands. He said, I don't mind that you have done this to me. But what I mind is you're not taking the opportunity for ecstatic love of God. You're going to have to suffer all these sins. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approached and called for his Sudasani chakra, he was angry to tolerate too with that manner. He was about to sever the head of Madhai. Lord Nityananda stopped him. He said, no. Prabhupada explains it in these words. If you kill him, you might as well kill everyone. More or less everyone's like this. We have come in this incarnation to kill their demoniac mentality with the holy names and give them love of God. Nityananda said, actually, he hit me, but it doesn't hurt. He begged Lord Chaitanya to give him mercy. And by Nityananda Prabhu's mercy, Jagai and Madhai took to the chanting of the holy names and became perfected Paramahamsa saints. Srila Prabhupada is in the line with Lord Nityananda. Not only in the form of the Parampara, but in the spirit. It's an all-powerful Acharya. He called himself an insignificant beggar in his prayers. And he traveled around the world on Lord Nityananda Prabhu's behalf 12 times. So humble, so merciful, just giving the holy name, giving the culture of pure devotional service. And cities and towns and villages all over the world, the days of glory time. And here we have Shri Krishna Balaram. Baladev Subhadra Jagannath and moving to Okadesh. To fulfill on the highest level the real purpose that Lord Radhanath keeps these little bruises on his hoods. Gives us all the opportunities to realize our unlimited, eternal, spiritual potential as hearts and parcels of Krishna, and lovers of God, as compassionate instruments of God's love. And it can all be accessed by having humble service at it, and chanting holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Can you go?
Namaste Saraswati Deve
சந்திரவாணி மரத்துக்கு பக்கத்தில் தான் அவங்க இருக்காங்க. இப்போ என்னால் போக முடியாது. ஓப்பனாக இருக்கான்னு பார்க்கலாம்.
Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Jayatam Suratao Pango Mama Mandamathir Gati Matsarvasva Padamboja Radha Madana Mohana Divyat Parindaran Kalpatu Mata Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanastha Sri Sri Radha Silavundadeva Sradivise Manusmarani Sriman Rasarasarambi Vamsivathatthastha Harshandenu Sunagopi Gopinatha Krishna Bhaktakanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu
நடந்து போயிடலாம் இண்டு வரைக்கும்.
Vanshakalpatarobhyascha Kripasindhuvyascha Patitanam Paramidya Vaishnavebhyo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. I'm very grateful and honored about this opportunity to serve all of you by speaking some words on this most blessed and holy night of January. Before I sat on this seat, I offered a prayer to my beloved Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace, His Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. And I looked around in the temple tonight, and something came into my heart that I'd like to share with you. Tonight marks a very historical event. In addition to Krishna's advent into this world. Exactly 40 years ago, Srila Prabhupada was on the cargo ship Jaladuta in the Arabian Sea. The only Vaishnava on the whole boat. All alone, as the boat was going along the Arabian Sea, old cargo ship, Srila Prabhupada celebrated Janmashtami. On Friday the 13th of August, 1965, Srila Prabhupada boarded the Jaladuta in Calcutta. And he was already getting seasickness.